3 of them.
Well, no, they're hooked on the bed.
Oh, I see. So whoever this is.
This one.
So we got to figure out who has the Sony.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
It's just this one. The rest of
I know
these
they said they
are
want
fine.
2 handhelds. Maybe what if we just had the one handheld? We leave the podium mic there. Then you got all these. You got that. Yeah, that should be good. Then they can pass that back. You know what I mean? That's what I would say. Fine, one mic.
Right? So that way it's visual.
But yeah, I would leave this one just like it is. You got all these mics on here. That's what I.
What do you think? Here you go. Oh, nice to meet you. You have thought you are the. Okay. Okay. All right. So sorry. Oh wow. That's nice. I know, right? So do you work? No, I work for the AG's office. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm our director of communications. So. Very cool. Yeah. And the AG also actually was a little bit fun. Really? I'm the first one to school. Yeah, she didn't go to school. Right. Yeah. Where did you grow up? East Detroit. Oh, I grew up down in Allen Park. Oh, okay, cool. No. Oh yeah. Yep. Bingo. Oh, it's so big. Yeah. Never. Yep. Yep. My husband asked me once. He's like, "What's bingo?"
Well,
What's all that?
is he going to be putting for whoever papers and stuff on there? I don't know.
Oh, that?
Whoops. See,
Yeah.
I'm helping this person out over there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm screwing everybody's next up. If anybody can hear me, I'm sorry.
I'm fixing it.
I'm fixing it.
Never seen so many police officers in one spot.
I mean, this is
I'm
pretty.
all sweaty.
Yeah.
I'd be escorted in. I'm like, where am I walking into?
I know.
Right?
There's a lot of people here, that's for sure.
All right, it's good. Don't touch it. Don't bump it.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna come up here and he's gonna move the mic and
Yeah,
all of them
and they're all
are gonna
gonna
go,
fall.
and then we gotta come up in front of everybody and get embarrassed.
That's weird. Nice to meet Tammy. Right. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Hoping that this, make that mic's okay.
Which one?
Position, the big one.
Well,
Should be fine.
it should be. If somebody starts moving it up and
I know,
down,
I don't want to.
yeah, some of these might unclip. I'm gonna try to tape them. I'm gonna help everybody out and try to take some stuff down.
Yeah.
But are these okay? Is there gonna be papers or something? Or they'll be okay.
I'll let you know if they throw you out.
It's sweet. Get out. I'm used to it. It's happened many a time.
That's what happens. You know,
Yeah.
I'm the facility manager.
Oh, good. Right.
What's your name? Dennis.
Dennis, nice to meet you. Dennis the Menace. Ah, you don't seem like a menace.
Hey,
Come on. Yeah.
I'm gonna stick this sometime. So
All right.
yeah, I think it's
I think so. It right there. That looks good. Glad it's not on right now. Everybody's here.
probably all good. Friday night.
Hello, everybody.
Like you anyway.
Yeah. Everybody's
all the
very
media.
cool and friendly. God bless.
Okay.
Yeah.
I told him he cannot touch this mic. He can go up and down. That's it. But I'm gonna give him this.
Oh, good. Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Hey, you guys, we're gonna get started here pretty soon. So if I can have everybody kind of filter into a seat. If you've got an empty seat next to you, raise your hand so somebody can have a seat. There's bleachers in the back as well. If you have a postcard that has questions, you could pass them all to this side over here. We'll collect them later. And the bathrooms are out in the hallway. If anybody needs those, I think several of you were aware of those when you were coming in. But you still got some people coming in. So if you got a seat empty next to you, go ahead and raise your hand so somebody can filter into that seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest gathering of faith-based community, certainly in Genesee County, and I'm willing to bet in all of mid-Michigan. In light of what happened on Sunday, the 28th, it clearly examples that we are united for one purpose, and that is to look out for the people that you lead. We are here today to answer some questions. What are you doing that's working? And what do you need to do to keep your flock safe. The training that you're going to be in is a roll call training, a squad room training. This is going to be the tactical briefing that if you are in an agency of law enforcement, this is how we would address the threats. This is how we would address the concerns and how we would deploy should something happen. I do want you to know that before you got here, this building was swept. We take it very serious that your safety here with this gathering is #1 priority. We have security on the outside with our friends from Flint Township, as well as the county. So while you're here, you are safe. Before we begin, this country respects those that are in the religious space. And there's no better way to start it than the chief of the Flint Township, where we are right now, leading us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you stand? Remove your hats.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
72 hours ago, I had a conversation at the scene with Attorney General Dana Nessel. And with all the agencies that were there from the beginning, our first on scene, Grand Blanc Township, the Department of Natural Resources, and then fire and EMS, and all of those who responded to the church in Grand Blanc, you quickly figure out what you need to do there, but also it's the things that you need to do to keep it from happening again. When it was suggested by the Attorney General that we have a PowerPoint that addresses these specific concerns that churches have when it comes to the legal side, it makes sense that we build a tactical briefing on how to respond, how to protect, should something happen, but most importantly, answer your questions. And that's what today is going to do. Now, I will also add that at the end, we have an incredible partner through a company called Boundtree. And the Sheriff Paramedic Program, they are our vendor for all of the medical supplies that you see Sheriff Paramedics use when they respond to medical emergencies throughout the county. Everybody in this room is going to get either their own trauma dressing that's going to be demonstrated by Deputy Roy, or their own tourniquet. So you have something to jar what you need to build out on. So we're so thankful that everybody here is going to get something when they leave. We also want to thank Dan Russell from JHS, who provided not only this building, but also bought chairs to make sure that this room had enough space for everybody. We initially planned on 200. And today we had an RSVP of 506 people. That's because you care about those who come to your places of worship and you want them to be safe. The reason we were able to put it together in 72 hours, because we knew that yesterday's holiday, tomorrow's Sabbath, today's prayer time, Sunday is church time. This applies across the board. So we're going to give you that information, and it's going to be very, very succinct. There is always more that you can learn. There's always more that you can do. And throughout this whole topic that we talk about, there's going to be a time where I ask more questions, and then we're going to hear from you through the question and answer. But then there's a, what do we do next after this? So sit back, enjoy, take notes, consume the information, and it will be a benefit to you, I promise. Our first speaker is going to be the Attorney General, Dana Nessel. There is a question when it comes to legalities, state law, federal law. What can you do? What cannot you do? Where does the civil rights violations come in? Carrying a pistol, not carrying a pistol, telling somebody to leave, telling them to stay. What can you and what are you appropriately allowed to do on the legal front? Ladies and gentlemen, to answer that question, go through a PowerPoint. Please welcome to the stage Attorney General Dana Nessel.
Thanks so much. Was that me? Did I do that? No, okay. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much, Sheriff Swanson, for putting this event together. Obviously, like everybody else, I've been to Genesee County with the sheriff on so many happy occasions, doing your Ignite graduations and expungement fairs, and many other things. This is not one of those occasions. It's a very sad and tragic and somber occasion, and my heart goes out to the entire Grand Blanc community. My heart goes out to the LDS community. My heart goes out to those who lost their lives, their loved ones, the people who are
still suffering from injuries. But I guess I will just say that I look at this as a tragedy, but also an opportunity. And I say that because of all the work we did in light of the Oxford school shooting. That was a horrific tragedy beyond imagination. But as a result of that, what we did is we strengthened the safety and security of schools all around the state. And I think that the lives that were lost at Oxford actually saved many other lives because of tragedies that never happened, never occurred, because of all those new security measures that were put into place. So hopefully those who lost their lives were not in vain. And we use this as a way to make sure that people are going to be protected in houses of worship all across the state now as a result. I am bad at PowerPoint presentations. Okay. No? Did I get it? Okay. So when I took office in 2019, we made it a point to prioritize the rising tide of hate crimes that we were seeing nationally, but unfortunately, Michigan was one of the states with some of the highest numbers. In the recent data we've seen, Michigan's reported about 620 hate crime incidences in 2024 alone, and that breaks down to more than 50 incidents every month. And due to massive, considerable underreporting, that number really, we know, is only the tip of the iceberg. Victims of a hate crime often choose not to contact law enforcement, either because they don't know about the services that are available to them, or they distrust the judicial system, or they fear further retribution against their family or their businesses or themselves. These incidents represent the just courageous few who decided to speak out, and their reports detail stories of assault, intimidation, threats, some costing lasting harm to the victims and to our communities. So bias motivation. Important to remember that hate is not a rational thing, but it is targeted. So when you look at statistics, hate bias crimes are driven by any number of forms of prejudice, and it can be race, religion, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation. Oftentimes it's based on age. Oftentimes it's based on disability status. But at the end of the day, we can't predict who is going to be the next target, only unfortunately that we know that there will be a next target. And that's why it benefits all of us to rally for stronger protections, the strongest protections possible, so we can keep every Michigan resident safe from harm. What is a hate crime? Well, a hate crime is defined as a criminal act committed against a person, group, or their property, motivated by prejudice or bias against a protected characteristic. Hate crimes are about much more than just the individual or the building that they may target. They're really about creating social tension and striking fear into the hearts of an entire community. Hate crimes are really messaging crimes, but they must be answered with a strong message in return that hate has no place here in Michigan. Our hate crimes unit, that again, as I indicated, we established in 2019, which is actually the Department of Attorney General's Hate Crime and Domestic Terrorism Unit, and it's dedicated to investigating and prosecuting bias-motivated crimes, also crimes against government officials. And it's the first of its kind in the nation, and since then there have been other replications of that effort. Our hate crimes unit works with federal and local law enforcement partners to ensure that crimes of this nature are thoroughly investigated and that the offenders are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And to date, the unit has investigated, well over 100 tips. We've prosecuted dozens of cases. Some have been pretty massive, taking on anti-government militia groups, white supremacy organizations, and those who have threatened violence against our communities. And so if you or someone you know you think is a victim of a hate crime, I encourage you to report it to local law enforcement, but also report it to us at the AG's Hate Crimes and Domestic Terrorism Unit at hatecrimes@michigan.gov. And why this is so important is because the Department of Attorney General has expertise that oftentimes they just don't have at the county prosecutor's level. We handle all of these First Amendment related cases, and we are the ones who have to defend state laws if and when they are challenged, including a recent challenge to some of our domestic terrorism laws and anti-terrorism laws. So we do have a lot of expertise, and even when the county prosecutors handle this, of course, we are there to support them to make sure they have the resources they need. But also, sometimes people don't feel comfortable for whatever reason reporting to their locals. And if that's the case, you can come directly to us to make a report. What is a civil rights violation? Well, in some instances, bias-motivated conduct might not necessarily rise to the level of a crime, but it can still constitute a civil rights violation, and that applies to any act or conduct that unlawfully deprives an individual or a group of their rights and privileges guaranteed under our many state and federal laws. So for recourse, you can call or email to report it at the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, and you can file a complaint online at mi.gov/MDCR. What is a hate incident? I'd like to be clear about this. Hate itself is not a crime, and our civil liberties protect the right to speak out even about the most horrendous and terrible things. A hate incident is an action, behavior, or speech that expresses prejudice, bias, or hostility against a person or group based on their protected characteristic, but it does not rise to the level of criminal activity. So hate incidents may involve offensive comments, gestures, or other non-criminal behaviors. But even though hate incidents cannot be prosecuted, they should still be taken very seriously. And they could be a red flag moment that, if left unaddressed, could escalate to violence at any moment. So it's really important still to take note of hate incidences and to memorialize them and to make sure you're keeping track and reporting it. If you see something, say something has never been more important than it is right now. 59% of domestic terrorists began to exhibit concerning behavior more than a year in advance of their actual violent plots. So be aware of signs to look out for. So things that you may want to look for. Grievances. People that may feel wronged due to a real or perceived experience. This feeling might stem from a sense of injustice, victimization, or embarrassment in a relationship or in their workplace or in their life in general. Violent ideation, the decision to see violence as an answer. While many people have thoughts of violence at various times, most people will not move towards pathways to violence. Research and planning of an attack. During this step, an individual might begin doing research on past attacks, looking into weapons, potential targets, or locations for an attack. Pre-attack preparation plans. In this phase, people are psychologically ready to attack. They might begin preparations such as collecting weapons, building explosives, target practice, or purchasing special clothing or equipment that they wouldn't otherwise need. Probing and breaches. This step is not always included in this pathway, but it is common to do a dry run of an attack. The individual may visit the intended target, look for security cameras, assess police presence or call in a fake bomb threat or shooting. And they may change their plans based on what they learn. And then unfortunately attack, the final step in carrying out an act of violence. So it's not always a linear path to violence. These are steps between the grievance and escalation, and it's different for every person. But there are little windows, excuse me, of opportunity where a potential criminal can be reached and stopped before tragedy occurs. We have the power through our laws and rhetoric to influence what the final outcome turns out to be. And law enforcement can only address a problem that we know about. So if you see something concerning, please bring it to our attention at the earliest opportunity. And again, it may not be a crime, but it may be an opportunity for some other form of intervention. Reporting. A couple of tips for reporting a hate crime. Your first priority should always be to ensure the safety of the people with you. If you find yourself in immediate danger, obviously call 911 or local, whatever the local emergency number is. Secondly, do what you can to preserve any evidence for law enforcement to investigate for when they get to the scene. So try to document as much as you possibly can, and that means photographs, videos, writing down a recitation of exactly who said what when. No matter what, do not tamper with a crime scene if there is one. Immediately have somebody file a police report and contact the AG's Hate Crimes and Domestic Terrorism Unit, again, at hatecrimes@michigan.gov. And the sooner we can catch wind that a hate crime has occurred, the sooner we can do something about it, the better we are to pursue charges if, in fact, that's necessary. Something to talk about, and I want to say this, I know this was a point of some controversy when this passed in 2023, then went into effect in 2024. But I want to talk about ERPOs, Extreme Risk Protection Orders, and why they are very important. So, as I said, this passed in May of 2023, and these extreme risk protection orders, also known as red flag laws, allow a civil court, not a criminal court, a civil court, to temporarily prevent someone at risk of harming themselves or others from possessing or purchasing firearms. ERPOs are a tool, just one tool to prevent gun violence like a mass shooting, but also to help prevent suicide attempts, gun injuries, and gun deaths generally. There have been hundreds of ERPOs issued in Michigan since the law's passage. Most of them, the vast majority, are at the request of law enforcement. But petitions can also be filed by family members, housemates, and healthcare providers who are concerned about someone who is close to them. Removing firearms temporarily from an individual in crisis, it's not going to end their crisis, but it does provide this window of opportunity to set that individual back on the path to recovery before the situation escalates to violence. And I encourage all Michigan residents to familiarize themselves with our state's red flag laws to protect themselves and their loved ones in case of an emergency. And you can learn more about this at mi.gov/crime victims rights. And these forms can be found on your with your county circuit court family law division. They are the ones in charge of ERPOs. And again, this is only in case where you have an individual who is at risk of violence towards someone else or towards themselves. And mostly these have been utilized to prevent suicides. And I think they've been very effective in that. The Institutional Desecration Act, was very happy to see that passed also in 2023. For a long time in Michigan, our weak and very outdated laws did not provide prosecutors with the right tools to hold perpetrators accountable. But last term, The state legislature passed this act, and it designates it as a crime under state law to threaten or commit hate-based vandalism. And the law went into effect February 2024, and it includes a variety of tiered penalties based on the extent of damage or if it's a repeat offender. And, these are important because this isn't just graffiti, right? Somebody targets a mosque, a temple, or a church. It's not the same as somebody, putting graffiti on a mailbox. But it wasn't really treated much differently. And we know that it is a different kind of crime, and it's intended to scare people in a very different way. And what I like to call these types of laws that we have, I call them murder prevention, because more often than not, people who commit assaultive hate crimes didn't start out with human victims. They often start with property damage. So our hope is that we can use these laws to catch and hopefully rehabilitate those who act out through vandalism before they graduate to violent acts. The new Hate Crimes Act. The state legislature also recently took time to modernize and strengthen our state's hate crime statute. The first time the law had been updated in the 35 years of its existence. Previously, violations, it was called the Ethnic Intimidation Act, were considered very low-level offenses with a very narrow scope of enforcement and honestly very little power of deterrent. So the newly enacted Hate Crimes Act, which became effective April 2nd of 2025, expands the definition. It includes, in addition to the other groups that were already covered, including race and religion and ethnicity, also covers sexual orientation, gender identity, but also age and disability. So those are added to the list of protected classes. The law also designates malicious acts of violence, property damage, or threats based on bias, as I indicated, felony offenses with tiered penalties. And there are other factors that can escalate the penalty, such as if a firearm was brandished in the commission of that crime, if the individual has a prior record of these types of offenses, or if there's evidence of coordinating a group attack, or if the attack targeted a minor. This legislation reform is really helping to make sure that no one in Michigan has to fear for their safety because of who they are or where they worship or any other unique attribute of their identity that contributes to the diversity of our state. Swatting. I mean, this has become such a big issue as of late, and everyone here in law enforcement can tell you that. Unfortunately, our laws are badly outdated. They are woefully insufficient to protect our communities. And as a result, at our department, we've been trying really hard to get better legislation to address this. Swatting is the term for when someone makes a prank call, or it could be an email or some other sort of communication, to emergency services to coerce police into dispatching a large number of armed officers to a particular address. And there are about 1,000 swatting incidents in America every year, and that number is just growing. And each incident is estimated to cost at least $10,000 to that affected community. Michigan had multiple incidents in the last month, including here in Genesee County. And while swatting is a recognized federal crime with serious penalties, Michigan law only addresses false reports of felonies, and it's a pretty low-level offense. So I'm supporting a bill package that's pending right now in the state Senate, and now that we finally have a budget, maybe they can get on to some other things. But it would make it a felony to falsely report a misdemeanor in a manner that produces a law enforcement response, and also working with legislators, hopefully to increase the current penalties for false report of a felony, especially when it results in an injury or a death, which unfortunately does happen. So we need this to better serve as a deterrent. I encourage each and every one of you to reach out to your own state legislators to encourage their support for this package as well. Domestic terrorism. I want to touch on for a minute Michigan's anti-terrorism or true threat statute, which I'm actively lobbying the legislature right now to have updated. In 2023, the United States Supreme Court issued an opinion on a case called the Counterman case. And in that case, the court altered the previous understanding for what is legally considered a true threat. And it now requires the state to prove that the defendant not only made a threatening statement, but also had an understanding personally, subjectively, of the nature of that threat. And while the Michigan Court of Appeals recognized that the law conforms to the Counterman decision, that decision has now been appealed, and the Court of Appeals has encouraged the legislature to update this law. Ironically, do you know who was targeted in that case? The Court of Appeals. But still, this is obviously a very, very important decision, and I have grave concerns about if we don't update it, what that will mean for our ability to enforce the law. So as of now, Michigan has to update our statute to better reflect this change, or we're going to risk the courts overturning the numerous cases where we have people who have clearly dangerous intentions and they've made violent threats against elected officials or even the courts, but were convicted under the old statute. And the changes that are required, relatively small, but they should have broad-based support. We should all want this. We simply need to make it even clearer that the person making the threat has the intent to put others in fear based on a threat of a violent felony or is reckless about the effect that their threat will have on others. And I hope you'll all be supporting this legislation and encourage your representatives in Lansing to do so as well. These bills are pending with Senator Schink, State Rep Menser, and they've not yet had a hearing in their respective chambers. We hope they will soon. So just in conclusion, obviously we are here for, again, a very sad and tragic event. But again, I hope that we'll use this as an opportunity to learn about what we can best do to protect everyone. I think it's important that we all band together at this time as a community, as multiple communities coming together, to support one another. And it's important to know, we are not without power. We're not without resources. And I hope that you'll remember that the Michigan Department of Attorney General is your partner to fight against hate. And my hate crime unit stands ready to protect each and every resident of this state. And you can help by telling your families, friends, and neighbors about how to contact us should they ever have that need. So thank you so much, Sheriff Swanson, for inviting me to be here. And thank you all for listening. Thanks.
Thanks for some clarification. We got questions from the crowd. I think it was interesting when the AG talked about civil rights. On scene, I got on within 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Within 2 hours, the FBI had opened up a civil rights case. You would think when there's an active scene and there's fire, and there's still the reunification going on, why would you start a civil rights case? Because freedom of religion was attacked. And that's what brought the FBI in to open up a case. So the civil rights part of protecting this group of faith-based leaders is key. The second thing that's interesting and what the AG said was when there is something that even hints of a premeditated red flag, you may not see the value. In fact, many times in the faith-based community, we want to err on the side of it was just a moment, or that's how they are, or it must not have been that. We live in a time now where all those little pieces together add up to something. By calling local law enforcement, you may not know that that is a piece that is part of an algorithm that has been brewing for some time. So please report those things. It's not tattling. It's not overwhelming the system. 911 would much rather be proactive than reactive for something of those numbers. That's what's called premeditation, counter surveillance, asking questions. Somebody who's just really unusually acting. This is where you can help build the case to keep things from happening and spilling over. When we're talking about emergency protection orders. I have 3 chiefs and a sheriff here. Before the law, when we have a school threat, when we have a bomb threat, and we work them all the time, we have to go to make sure there's no access to weapons. What happened in Oxford, there was an access to a weapon there. And so the community expects law enforcement to make sure there's no access. So we go to the locker, we go to the cars, we go to the house, it was a lot of, can we please do this? Help us through the system. Now this is a temporary separation of access to weapons. Can I just tell you, you know better your people, you know better your family. This isn't to hurt them, it's to protect them and the people that they could hurt. So if something rises to the level that you think we need to call law enforcement, especially in this community, we will work with you to keep people safe. But those emergency protection orders are now the tool that we use to keep people and weapons separated if there's a crisis, with a plan to restore. That's the key. The other thing I want to talk about is swatting. The AG talked about swatting. These calls are so egregious when they go out. We just had one in Fenton Township a little over a year ago. It was so violent with people down, shots being fired. It gets every resource available to that location, but it's all fake. And when we hit the door of the house when the people weren't in, sometimes they're there not even knowing that's the house that was swatted. So swatting is very dangerous, and it doesn't have to be just a house. It could be any location. So you can do some more research on that, but that's why it's so key. It's like calling in a bomb threat or calling in something even worse. These cases and these calls are so outrageous that it brings all the resources. And I'm willing to bet, and this is what happened on Sunday, when it is a real call and it is very serious, we have a built-in instinct thing. Is this real or it's not? And then we are behind to making sure that, yes, this is real. So swatting is nothing to take lightly. Next thing I want to talk about is, AG, answer this question if you could. Who can you kick out of your building if they are creating an incident? Where's the legal right where they can't do that? Would you please answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to understand that there's a difference between a private organization and a public or a governmental organization. And, you know, religious institutions are private organizations. They are, I don't want to call them private clubs, but for lack of a better term, if somebody is making you feel uncomfortable and somebody seems threatening and you're getting complaints about somebody who is making other congregants feel uneasy, and I bet you even have times where there are people who say, I don't think I want to come to church this week because I think this person might be there and that person always makes me feel really uncomfortable. There's just something off about that person that I don't like. You can tell them that, you know, they are not welcome to come back there. I know that's hard, right? But I think you start off with something where you're trying to get that person help and you're trying to make that person know and understand what their actions are that are making people feel uneasy. So I know it's a tough thing to do, but just sometimes it has to be done.
And I think it's important to remember you have the congregants to protect. And so there may be people that you need to take that action. I think your security team has to deal with this. Another question, if I may. CPLs that people carry inside the church, is there an approval process they have to go through with that faith-based leader to carry inside the church? Do they have to identify for somebody who has the CPL holder?
Yeah, I mean, I know that you know, churches are deemed to be, of course, sensitive places in terms of places where weapons can be banned. Obviously, a church can make arrangements with a particular CPL holder to be able to have a CPL, a concealed permit, and to be in possession of a firearm at that location.
And it's our recommendation, and you probably do this in yours, is whoever your security lead is, to have a list of those that are approved, that have CPL, and then there's a list of those that have been approved by the board, and just keep them in the file so you know who's there. Much more to talk about on this topic, but to stay sensitive to what we have right now, I would say that everything we deal with, the next one is going to be how to flee, fight, barricade, in a fire. What do you do when it's happening? There's going to be a lot of questions after each module. This is the beginning. This is where you use discretion to know we need to learn more, we're right on track. So there's a lot more here, and I know that we have questions out there that you could write on cards. If you have those questions, pass them down to either side. The staff will collect them, those little note cards. But we're going to get to the next module, and that is Lieutenant Rudy Lopez and his team throughout the county, working with law enforcement, has instructed tens of thousands of people with active shooter training. And I can tell you, when we had the reunification and law enforcement was leading people from the church to the Trillium, which was a commercial business that shut down in order for them to have reunification, the ones that were the most calm were the ones still in school. The middle schoolers, the elementary students, they were so noble because this is what they were trained to do. So law enforcement is here to do that for you. There's more that we can do, but please welcome to the stage Lieutenant Rudy Lopez.
Thank you. All right, today we're going to talk about protecting faith-based organizations. All right, the objective today is to understand unique threats facing places of worship, okay? Bad things happen everywhere. Just know that. Today, what I talk about is not just where you guys worship. It's at the grocery store. It's at the airport. It's sitting in a parade, okay? Because bad things happen everywhere. So everything I tell you today, I want you, it's not just a work skill. It's not just a worship skill. It's a life skill. All right, so take everything in today. We're going to learn how to assess vulnerabilities, explore tactical measures, and promote a culture of safety and preparedness. All right, why security matters. Recent incidents targeting religious institutions, that's why. All right, you have groups of people that come to you to worship, okay, and to enjoy one another and to be together to do that, right? So that's why it's important. We have an obligation to make sure that they're safe, okay? Places of worship are usually seen as soft targets, and we're going to talk about how we make them just a little bit harder, but still welcoming to the people that are coming to be there with you. All right, there's a balance you have to play with the openness and the protection, right? We want people smiling. We want people to be there to hear whatever message is going out to them that day. And then the community, they expect you to have all this stuff in place because they're coming there to you. They're putting their trust in that they can drop all their problems that day. They're putting their trust in that when they go to wherever they are to worship, that they're in a safe environment where they can let go and understand and just hear the word, whatever word it is. Threat assessments. What is a threat assessment? That is you knowing your building and your security team knowing your building. All right, you should do walks around your building every day. See if anything's changed. See what's going on. See if bushes are growing too large to see through. Okay, see if anything's overgrown. What's going on? We have to know what's going on in our building all the time. Types of threats. Active shooter. We don't just say active shooter. Why? Because it's not just shooters, right? It can be a car, it can be a knife, it can be anything. It is not just, so when we talk about it, we talk about an active assailant, someone that is trying to hurt somebody. Vandalism. We want to make sure our places stay nice. A lot of us have put a ton into our places of worship, and we want them to look nice, and we want people to be there. We want people to want to be there. Arson, theft, hate crimes. We just talked about those. And even weather emergencies. Are you prepared? Do you have a plan? Do you know what you're going to do when the tornado hits in the middle of service? Do people know where to go? Are you calm enough to know how to direct them? Okay, these are things you have to practice. Okay, in today's day and age, you do have to practice active aggressor training. Your people have to know. I will tell you, the kids in this community, they know. If you are ever in doubt of what to do, ask a kid, because these kids practice it nonstop all the time. And that is sad, but unfortunate, it's a truth. And our kids are not going to be scared. They're going to be prepared. And I promise you, in Genesee County, the chiefs, the sheriffs, we train our kids and we make sure our law enforcement's involved. The importance of situational awareness. If you take anything out of this training today, this is what I want you to be prepared for. There are bad people that want to do bad things. Whether it's a school, whether it's a place of worship, whether it's a business, they want to do bad things. I tell people anytime I teach this, one of my favorite things in the world to do is go to a movie and enjoy a movie with my family. I go in, I pay however much it is for the tickets. I buy the oversized tin of popcorn, right? Because you got to eat it. And then you buy the gallon of Coke because you can't buy the small one because you don't want to leave, right? And then I walk in, and the first thing I do is I tell my family, there's an exit there, there's an exit there. If anything goes wrong, go to those exits. I have a plan. Are my kids scared when I say that? No, absolutely not. They know. They'll tell me. When you see police officers eating lunch, they sit in the back corner, facing the door, facing the register. Why is that? Because we want to see. We want to see who's coming in. We want to see if there's any issues. We want to see the cash registers. That's us not being scared. That's us being prepared. So have a plan. We're all creatures of habit. We all shop in the same grocery stores. You go to the same Walmart. You go to the same Sam's Club. You go to the same car dealership, wherever you are. You should know where the exits are. You should have a plan. Your family should be ready to do what you have to do to survive. Because we're all going to go home at night. That's the master plan. Security personnel and deployment. Trained, visible. Key is visible. I know a lot of people don't want to wear the security lanyard. They don't want to wear whatever. To have people at your doors, greeting people with a smile and saying, hello, welcome. We're excited to have you here today. And they are actually trained to observe, looking for bulges in shirts, seeing what's going on, seeing if anything's sticking out, seeing if they have a bulge, at the lower of their leg. Maybe they have a leg holster on. Those are things they have to look at. Now, I'm not telling you to stop and frisk everybody. I'm absolutely not telling you that. But I'm telling you to be perceptive. And if you see something that bothers you and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, there's a lot of experience in this room. Start asking questions, start talking to them. You see someone agitated, begin that communication. The power of hello is super important. You can change one's thought process just by acknowledging them and making them feel like a person. You want them to have identifiers on. Put the security tag on. Let your people who are there to worship with you feel safe because they know, hey, so-and-so's at this door, so-and-so's at this door. We lock the doors after 15 minutes after service starts. That's okay. Then you have them positioned there after to let people in if they come late. Exterior patrols. This is also super important. You want somebody in a security car, golf cart, whatever, patrolling your lots, driving through, see if there's anyone pulling on car handles, seeing what's going on in your lots. Hey, there's someone walking through the parking lot. He's acting really strange. He's wearing a winter coat and it's 95 degrees out. There's something there, right? Something might be there. So they should be able to communicate with radios to the staff inside. Hey, just let you know he's walking towards the east door. That is the kind of communication that is important. Surveillance and monitoring, super important. And I'm not going to touch a lot into this because Captain Kennemer is going to go into a little bit. Placement of cameras. And if someone's monitoring it live, if they're watching it live, or if it's recording. All right. I'm always going to tell you, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, reach out to your local law enforcement. Make sure they're involved in your plan. They want to be. They want you to reach out to them and ask questions, because that way we know it's done right. And signage. There's nothing wrong with saying security is working. You are under 24-hour surveillance when you enter this building. There's nothing wrong with that. What does that do? It's just something extra that gets into someone's mind if they're coming to your church to scope it out, or to your place of worship to scope it out. Hardening the facility, access control. We want you to secure your windows and doors, okay? And that's super tough. I get it. Some buildings are old and outdated and your windows have to be open to get a breeze. I understand that. All right. But you have to at least be able to monitor them if you're open. Doors, you should, after service starts, it's okay to lock your doors as long as someone's there to let people in. That's fine. And welcome them in. Oh, thanks for coming. Let them in so they can see where they're going. All right. Key card access and codes. Those are all, I get that all costs money, but you can minimize that with someone manning that door. Soft spots. You want to be able to see any soft spots or spots that you can't see. You want to be able to see that with the electronics. If you don't have enough security staff, then cameras are the way to go. You just have to have someone watching it. Lighting and landscaping. Nobody wants to walk up to a dark place. You guys, some of these places, you guys are community centers. People come together to do stuff like this. They come together to watch concerts. They come to do multiple things. So just have adequate lighting. Don't give people a chance to hide in the dark. Light it up. Trees are beautiful. Everyone loves a nice tree, right? But if it's overgrown and people can hide behind it, then there's a problem. That's a blind spot for you. So make sure everything's taken care of. Make sure you have clear sight lines to anywhere you need to see. You have to practice. You have to educate your people. You have to let them know that this is what we're going to do here in our place of worship. Have evacuation plans. Have evacuation maps. Make sure your doors are numbered. Okay, that's as simple as for us in law enforcement. We might not know that the northeast door is the door you want us to go to. We're driving as fast as we can to stop whatever's happening. Okay, we're coming as fast as we can. It's a lot easier if I'm pulling around and I see door 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, supposed to go to door 4. Label them outside so we can read them. Have a plan for a shelter in place. Some of you are placed in positions, or you might be somewhere high crime, low crime, whatever. If something happens outside, there should be something that you can say, hey, we're going to shelter in place. There's an investigation going on outside. We don't want anyone to leave. Let's shelter in place right now. I'm not telling you to stop what you're doing. I'm not telling you to stop spreading the word. I'm telling you, just keep everybody in. Don't let anyone out at that point. Police will give you the all clear when it's clear. Have communication plans. How are you going to communicate with the rest of the people? What are you going to do? All right, how is it radio communication? Who's going to call 911? Make sure people know that it's okay to do that. Have med kits and AEDs. That is super important. We're going to talk about those here shortly, but medical kits can save lives. AEDs can save lives. All right, so have those prepared. Make sure your security teams, your welcome people, whatever else, your welcome desk people, whoever else you have working knows where that equipment is, because that will save someone's life. Community engagement. Now you're asking your community, your people to come help you secure your building. All right, make sure they're trained. They're all volunteers most of the time. Make sure they know how to de-escalate. Make sure they can talk to people. All right. Make sure they're aware of their surroundings, who's around them, what's around them all the time. Have a great relationship with your local law enforcement. See something, say something. All right. I am so tired of hearing on national TV, I knew it was going to be him. Oh, he'd been acting weird for 6 months. Oh, he'd been posting things for 6 months. I am so tired of that. And it's so sad. So if you see something, say something. You could save someone's life. Now we're going to talk about your response options. It's proven. When you have options, we're telling you it's okay to do these things. Okay, why do we do this? Because back in the day, we never told everybody it was okay to run. It's okay to run. All right, we never told anyone it was okay to fight. It's okay to fight for your life. You don't have to be a victim. All right, and hiding, if you can't run and you can't fight, you better hide as best as you can or lock down. These are tools. You're putting these in your tool belt. These aren't steps. All right. I can't tell you that you might just use one, you might just run. All right, these are not linear. You might use all three, you might not use any of them. You just have these 3 steps. You can run, you can hide, or you can fight. Those will increase your chances of surviving any kind of critical incident. Run. This is the preferred option. If a bad guy came in here right now and wanted to start shooting and we all took off running and we got out the door and we met at Donna's Donuts across the street, which is great. We're all out of here, right? That turns into what? A man with a gun, right? That's our specialty. We can deal with that all day. As long as there's no one in here for him to hurt, we have time. We've now taken time away from the bad guy and given it to the good guys. If it's safe to evacuate and you know that there's shootings going on the other side of campus and you can get out, it's the safest thing to do. That eliminates potential victims. If everybody here is gone and we are out of here, we are safe. Get as far away as fast as you can. Here's what I will say. You do have to notify law enforcement of where you are. Because once we know that you were here, we want to make sure you're okay. And we want to get you the help that you need. All right? Be prepared to give a statement. We got to know what's going on. We got to put the pieces together. So just know if you do get out and you were in a place where an active shooter took place or an active aggressor was, we want you to know that you have to contact 911, say, hey, I was there. Where do I need to go to give a statement? Because it is an investigation and we have to find out. If hiding ever becomes unsafe, this is what we want you to do. If you are locked down in some place and it is no longer safe, we want you to try to run if you can. That's breaking windows out, doing what you got to do. Hide or lock down. You don't know where the threat is, but you do know that you're in a room and you have cement walls and that steel door and you feel that you're safe and you can barricade it. All right, we want you to lock down. We want you to hide. All right, you can hide in something, under something, wherever. Fortify the doors, barricade that door, put everything you can in front of that door. If there's a secondary lock, use the secondary lock. There are drop locks that are, there's a drop lock company here locally in Michigan that does all the schools. That's a secondary lock that prevents or slows down the aggressor if they try to get into your building or to where you are. Be ready to run if things change, right? You might use those 2 tools. You might lock down, say, hey, I haven't heard anything. I think I'm good to go. There's an exit right there. I'm going to run. Run. The only time you should open those doors is if law enforcement is asking you to open those doors. You're safe. It's safe to come on out. And if you don't believe them, you'll see the example in Oxford. The kids didn't believe. It was the police. It was. They stayed locked down, and that's okay. We'll get in there eventually. This is the last resort option. I am telling you, it is okay to fight. You do not have to be a victim. This is the last resort. Only if you cannot run or hide. You may be forcing this if the threat starts right next to you or walks in behind you into the store. You might have to do this. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to win a fight. Eyes, throat, groin. You take one's ability to see away, you got a good chance of winning. You punch him in the throat, disrupt his breathing, you have a very good chance of winning. Or if you kick the person in the groin, it limits their movement, that increases your chances. That's going to help you win every fight. When you're in a fight for your life, there's no rules. I'm going home tonight and I'm going to do what I have to do to win. This is a personal decision. You have to know that this may depend on you going home that night. So you're going to do whatever you have to do to win. Some people think they may fight. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, you have no clue how you're going to react at that point. All right, I've trained officers, I've trained many people that say, I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight. And next thing you know, they're sprinting as fast as soon as they see something go down, okay? But that's okay. That's good. That's what we want you to do. Get out of there. So what I've taken you through is just run, hide, fight. There are 3 tools to put in your tool belt. All right. Thank you for your time. You guys have been an awesome audience. I want you guys to stay safe. If you're looking for additional training, contact your local police department, or you can always contact the sheriff's office. Thank you, guys. Stay safe.
In just a minute, you're going to hear 4 law enforcement executives, a sheriff and 3 chiefs. But before that, we have questions that came to us that overview a lot of what Lieutenant Lopez said that I think relates to everybody here. Number 1, how can we raise safety awareness among members without creating fear? Reality is, it can happen. And that denying violence is not going to save lives. It's how you message it. Message it anyway. Number 2, what kind of training and awareness should we provide our volunteers and greeters? This is why we're doing this today. We have static cameras here with VidCam. We're going to break this down in modules. Lieutenant Lopez is working to take that run, hide, fight, put it in a digital playbook. Everybody will have that. You can go to different places. You can get that information, but the key is you have to be aggressive and try to get that information to your people. You're going to hear from local law enforcement in a minute how you can go count on them and they will help train as well. But you have to role play, you have to practice, which means there are times that you may tell your service, at the end, we are going to practice a run, hide, fight scenario. If they know in advance what they're doing, now it happens and it becomes natural. When you prepare in peace, you perform in chaos. The majority of life is lived in the parasympathetic system. That means you're just kind of going through life, but that sympathetic response, that fight or flight, you're not thinking, you're reacting. So the more you can train and the more you can react in a way that's going to save lives, your members will appreciate that because they will know what to do. You're going to have to change the way we do business. Wayne County had an active shooter. They had an incident in the parking lot. You saw what happened at the Catholic Church. You saw what happened in other places. Churches are no longer immune from violence. Practice. What's the best way for a church to contact law enforcement beyond 911? Call up. Make appointments. Learn who your chiefs and your sheriffs are. You're not bothering law enforcement. We want to know who you are. Invite them to the local groups. Invite them to these moments where you have members there so they can feel comfortable with law enforcement. What should we do to first, if the sets come and we see a threat? What do we do during the service? This is where that practice comes down. You need to learn lockdown drills. You have an outer perimeter and an inner perimeter. When the folks are worshiping, who's on the outside that can use, and you're going to hear from a minute comms, who can lock down the doors to make sure that the outside threat doesn't come inside? You have to have those things built in. There's got to be a procedure. Locking those doors, like Lieutenant Lopez said, that is safety. How often should we review and update an emergency safety plan? I recommend once a year, my recommendation. What's the best way for our church to communicate with law enforcement if we feel unsafe? Build those relationships. What should we do to handle if we see a suspicious vehicle outside the building before the service? Call 911. Engage through surveillance. Keep yourself protected. You may have to ask people, hey, can we help you? Can you fill out a visitor card? How can we help you? And while you're doing that, other surveillance and other safety and security members are watching and keeping things safe. But denying, again, is not the answer. But get 911 on the board. I can tell you, whenever there's a school threat, you call 911 to school, the cavalry's coming. Same thing in our church buildings, our mosques, our synagogues, our temples, in a faith-based community. Is there a mass notification system the church could use? You're going to hear Captain Kenneber in a minute about comms. How do we give that message out? If I'm here and this is our congregation, it may be right from the pulpit. It may be through comms that the security is hearing something's going up. There's a code system. There's a notification. We're going to stop what we're doing now. We're going to keep people safe. Should members be searched before entering the premises? No. You don't want to get to the point unless you see something, then you say something, you can isolate. Again, this is an open forum, and you still have those legal boundaries. But if there's something that stirs up something that's suspicious, you have a protocol in place. How often should we practice is the question. We do things in our office and in the police department. We shoot 4 times a year. We use tactical training 4 times a year. When you role play and you do it, it could just be even a tabletop. just with your leadership, then your members, but 4 times a year keeps it front and center. If there's a mass notification, what's the best way to let people know what's happening? That code system. In the jail, code red means fire. Code green means violence. Code blue means medical. Code gray means weapon. The more you do that, the more people know when they hear that, they go into that auto response. Do you think security members should be CPL holders during the service? Yes, as long as they have the ability to safely carry their weapon and know the force continuum. Anybody who's got a CPL, that force continuum, you and I fall under the same standard as going to the Attorney General if we pull our weapon and certainly use it. Then if the threat goes up, your response goes up. If the threat goes down, your response goes down. And the obligation rests on you, unless it's an active shooter. An active shooter is committed. There's no negotiations. Two brave officers that responded on Sunday as they engaged the shooter because the decision was made to pull the trigger. And they saved a double or triple body count. Ladies and gentlemen, would you give a round of applause to all those first responders for that? The final question before I turn it over for a quick introduction to those 4 executive leaders. Do you let people know that you're security? Absolutely. There's a lot of calmness when you came in here and you saw marked cards and you see people in uniform. When I know I go into a place and they have security, I know that I'm taken care of. People expect to lay down their guard when they're at a religious service, but if they know the security watching their loved ones, the kids services, the elder services, and their security, if you have lights on, the more you can let people know that this place is safe, the better people will feel having that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the Sheriff of Tuscola County.
Good afternoon. My name is John Robinson, Sheriff of Tuscola. I came down here today, same reason you guys all knowledge, information. I want to pass this information along to churches in my area. If there's anyone in the crowd here from Tuscola County that doesn't have current plans in place, contact my office. Between me and our emergency manager, Steve Anderson, sitting in the back, we can come out to your places of worship and help prepare for things like this. I just want to thank the Genesee County Sheriff's Office for putting this on. And lastly, my heart goes out to the entire community that had to deal with this tragedy.
Thank you. Dear friend of mine, I've known him, we've come up the ranks together, the Chief of Flint Township, where we are right now, Chief Wang.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, Chief Brad Wengler. Thank you, Sheriff, for having the opportunity to come here today. I brought 2 of my executive command staff, Lieutenant Mike Nemechek and Sergeant Neil Donovan, there in the back of the room, making sure, again, that this building is secure. So if there's any questions for any faith-based organizations within Flint Township, we will make ourselves available to ensure that you need all the information that we can provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just want to thank Attorney General Nussel for being here today, as well as Sheriff Swanson for putting this on. Again, I'm from Davison Township. We've got a great number of churches out there. And in my department, we've got 4 certified crime prevention specialists. And part of that covers places of worship. And we've got another officer going through the program right now. And after this, we're probably going to need a couple more going through. But if anybody is here from our area, please reach out to us and we'll come out and do a security assessment. I'm sorry. We'll do an assessment for you and help you improve on things that you may need to, or let you know you may be adequate someplace, that you maybe didn't think you were.
Welcome, Jim Baldwin, City of Davison Police Department. Like these 3 gentlemen said, thank you, Attorney General, for being here. Sheriff Swanson and your team for putting this together, obviously. And thank you all for caring enough to be here today, because you're part of the solution. And so anybody that's in the City of Davison that worships in the City of Davison, please feel free to get a hold of us at any time. We would like to do a walkthrough at your location and to help out, figure out how we can harden our targets. Thank you.
So we're going to continue on for the sake of time. There is a lot of good information still coming, but we're sensitive. We got a little bit late start because the amount of support and the amount of engagement we have. But I just want you to know that all four of us, those folks over there, we all work together. The sheriffs stick together. If you need a jurisdiction and you need more help, we will all help with each other. So let me just tell you, law enforcement works together. I saw it so many times, but I certainly saw it on Sunday. But what happens when you have 8 shot serious, 1 critical, 4 dead? What happens when there's a vehicle that comes into the front of the building and there's a fire? What do you do when it happens so fast? And in 90 seconds, you have not only gunfire, but you have screams and people running, and now it's an active scene. EMS can't get there right away. The police are on the way, even though in Grand Lake they were there within 30 seconds. But what happens if it's 6 minutes? Well, thank you. Let me tell you this. Deputy Roy is going to go over a quick tactical medical overview. And let me tell you, I've seen him in action when one of our own officers got shot 3 times. One in the neck, one in the belt, one on the right lung. Deputy Roy and Sergeant Clayton were there. They threw our deputy who was shot in Burton in the back of the patrol car. They decompressed him in the back, took him to Hurley Hospital, and because of their actions, because of their quick response, they saved this deputy's life, Brandon Facting. So if there's one person I want you to listen to about how to treat massive injury, it's Deputy Dustin Roy. Give it up for him.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? Good. I like engagement. It makes me feel more comfortable. Like you said, I'm Deputy Dustin Roy. I've been with the Genesee County Sheriff's Office for 8.5 years. Prior to that, I worked for a local ambulance company, Swartz Ambulance. So I've been a medical first responder in this community for about 12 years now. It's been an honor and a privilege of mine. So thank all of you for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Today, we're going to be going over the basics of hemorrhage control. So in a traumatic injury, massive hemorrhage is the leading cause of death, preventable death. If we can control massive hemorrhage right from the get-go, it buys your victims or your patients time. Time is a luxury we don't always have, that we always wish we had more of, right? So let's give them as much time as we possibly can. Every patrol car at the Genesee County Sheriff's Office has one of these bags. Every one of these bags has 10 tourniquets, 10 chest seals, and 10 blood stoppers, which are pretty identical to what you guys will be receiving as a gift today from our partnership with Boundary. Big round of applause for them. Our command staff also has larger versions of these bags that these bags can fit into, and I'm pretty sure the larger versions of them can hold 5 of these bags each. So that's 50 tourniquets, 50 sets of bandages, and 50 chest seals that you can use to treat approximately 50 people. I'm not sure of the size of each of your place of worship, but we can definitely treat the vast majority of people with one large bag. There's 3 levels of awareness I like to talk about. I'm also a field training officer at the Genesee County Sheriff's Office, and I teach all of my rookies that come through that you need to have 3 levels of awareness. We've all heard about situational awareness ever since we were knee highs, right? What is the situation at hand? What do I need to do to rectify that situation? The next level of awareness is self-awareness. What am I capable of? Am I capable of handling this situation? And finally, you have equipment awareness. What equipment do I have to rectify this situation, and do I know how to use it? So today we're going to touch on all of that. First and foremost, Lieutenant Lopez did a pretty good job at talking about situational and self-awareness. I'm going to get right into the equipment awareness. I'll show you a couple examples of things that you should have in these emergency bags on hand. It's getting to the point where most public places, including places of worship, have AEDs on site. Anybody heard of an AED? Automatic external defibrillator. It goes hand in hand with CPR. It's getting to the point in the world where, along with an AED, we should have an emergency med kit as well. As I said before, our emergency med kits that we have in our patrol cars have chest seals, which we use to treat injuries to the thorax, to the chest or the back, okay? Injuries to the extremity, we have tourniquets, so your arms or your legs. And last but not least, we have gauze or pressure dressings to treat junctional sites, okay? Somebody's bleeding from an extremity, we want to apply a tourniquet high and tight as quick as possible. And in a moment, I'm going to have one of my partners from Boundary come up and I'm going to actually have him apply the tourniquet to me. I may have the trouble to share for his portable microphone so I can narrate it as my partner applies the stuff, but we'll get through that shortly. When we're applying a tourniquet, you want to apply it high and tight. It has three different parts. You've got a strap, you've got a windlass, and you've got a windlass lock. The most important part of it is getting the strap tight enough. Back in 2021, my partner was shot. There was a second officer who was shot, and he had tourniquets applied to him. Unfortunately, they didn't get the straps tight enough. So despite them applying the tourniquets and turning the windlass as tight as possible, those tourniquets fell off in the back of the car and they didn't do him a whole lot of good. Thankfully, he walked away from the situation fine as well. For junctional hemorrhage, so injuries to the groin area, somewhere where we can't get a tourniquet, we can't get it high enough or get it tight enough, we have to do something called wound packing. Once again, when he comes up and demonstrates it, I'll show you how we do it, but you're going to get a roll of gauze, you're going to wrap it around your finger. I know this might make some people squeamish, but you're going to have to pack the wound channel with as much gauze as you possibly can. Sometimes it'll take one roll of gauze, sometimes it'll take more, but we just keep packing until we get it all the way packed. After you pack the wound, you want to take another dressing and you want to apply direct pressure to that injury for at least a minute, preferably 2. After that, we can bandage it the rest of the way, and that'll buy them some time. Anything to the core where we can't wound pack because there's a lot of space in here, we need to save that space so our lungs can expand and things like that, we're going to have to apply something called a chest seal. The chest seal prevents air from coming into the wound, and it will allow us to equalize the pressure inside of our chest cavity. So I'm going to have my partner come up. We're going to start with the tourniquet. The tourniquet that he's applying here is the same one that you guys will be given today. This is called the soft T tourniquet. There's a bunch of different types of tourniquets and manufacturers. We're going to demonstrate with this one because this is the one you'll be receiving. This one has an extra piece of equipment, but it kind of makes things easier for you guys. There's actually a little clip on it. So the first step is deploying the tourniquet. You pull the clip apart. See how he applies it high and tight? Right here, you're going to see 2 little red arrows. He's going to cinch down on both sides of that so the arrows disappear. Once the arrows disappear and he pulls the strap as tight as he can, he's going to begin to turn the windlass. I told him he can go hard with it because I want you guys to see that it's going to hurt, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to save their lives, okay? After it goes as tight as you can get it, you usually want to get it probably about 1 more turn after they start telling you, oh, that hurts. And then he's going to secure it into this little triangle here, which is the windlass lock. After that, if you have time, which you most likely won't, you're going to want to note the time that it was applied. You're going to feel for a radial pulse, ensure the radial pulse is gone. You're going to check and make sure that the hemorrhage has stopped, and that would indicate that the tourniquet has been applied appropriately. Now, he's going to have a hard time getting it off. So. You did a good job. So the next thing we're going to do is he's going to demonstrate the application of this bandage, okay? This bandage is similar to the one we have. It's just a little bit more in depth, but it does all the same stuff. It has a roll of gauze inside, which you would use to pack a wound channel, okay? So for this one, I'm going to have him apply it to my arm, but once again, you can use this for wound packing as well. You would wound pack the channel. And then he's going to apply this pad over the top of the wound. That's going to keep up any extra blood that still may or may not be coming out. You notice that there's a little plastic cup on here that's going to give downward pressure into the wound itself and help control the bleeding as well. Now, every time he wraps this elastic bandage around my arm and the wound, that pressure is going to get tighter. So it serves as a pressure dressing. Pretty basic stuff, don't get me wrong, but the basic skills are what saves lives. After that, he gets it secured. All he has to do is stretch it onto itself. Some of them have clips like this one. You clip it in place. Make sure it stops bleeding, and you're done. So for anybody who ever has any more questions about this kind of stuff, there are plenty of medical providers in this room. They wouldn't be here today if they weren't dedicated to the cause. You can ask any sheriff, deputy, paramedic that you see out on the road. We'd be more than happy to demonstrate or go further into the skills with you. For time's sake, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll take questions afterwards. I'll be in the back of the room if you guys have any further questions. Thank you.
Just remember, this is not a first aid kit. It's a trauma kit. Tourniquets, dressings, chest seals. That's it. Plug the hole. Stop the bleeding. Direct pressure stops 99% of all bleeding. What you just witnessed there, you may think, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not a licensed. You don't need to be licensed. In 2017, the Mandalay Bay shooting, 1,000 rounds went out in 9 minutes. 60 people dead, 413 wounded. You may not have any time to stop and do a full assessment. All you're doing is stopping bleeding, because it's a dynamic scene. So what Deputy Roy just showed you is you need a trauma kit based on the size of your attendants and have them in multiple locations. The reason we have bags of 50 and bags of 100, because it may be the first officer on scene, but more is coming. But the key is when you go out there, you're going to get a choice of either a dressing or a tourniquet for free because of boundary. That's just to start the process. You need to fill it out, and there's no time to waste. The reason we did this training in 72 hours is because we knew that things could happen. And you cannot waste or wait any time because ready never comes. How we deal with this when it comes to treating your people, take action today. If you already have kits, make sure all of your staff know where they are, make sure it's updated, make sure it's not dry rotted. But the 3 things you need in a trauma kit, based on the size of your attendance, is gauze, trauma gauze, tourniquets, and chest seals. You got a hole in the chest, plug it with a seal. You got a hole in the body, plug it with gauze. You got massive bleeding, tourniquet. Any questions about these? All right. Our final address is going to be comms and surveillance. Captain Dave Kennemer is going to talk for real quick. I know we're just a little bit behind, but lives depend on this. So I appreciate your patience. What do you do? You know what radios to use, what kind of cameras to use, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Dave Kennemer.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here. I see a lot of faces that I've worshiped with, a lot of people that are just have the heart to serve the community, and it's an honor to see the turnout today. So this is a high-level view of things to look for when you're looking at upgrading your security cameras, things that you're looking at when you want to upgrade your communication system, things to think about. This is not meant to be a comprehensive course, right? These are things to consider, some of the technology that is out there. Oh, wrong button. All right, first of all, the very minimum that you need to look for is you want to have a minimum of 1080 resolution, preferably 4K. 4K will actually allow you to later to zoom in, get details that you can't see initially. 4K is preferred, but we know how budgets go. Low light vision. You want to make sure your cameras can record and get detail under low light. So for the outside cameras, especially even inside, if someone gets into your building when no one's there, you want to be able to get those details from that. Wide angle view, or I always say this wrong, PTZ, pan, tilt, zoom cameras. Those are for live viewing. They can move around, they can zoom in if you want to see something specific. And it provides flexible coverage. Sometimes you might need to change your cameras based on the seasons, right? In Michigan, when the Leafs go, you might have a much better field of view of your parking lot if the camera is orientated in a different direction. Make sure audio versus no audio recording. Not all your areas do you want to have audio recording. There could be a sensitive area where there's by the confessional or where people come forward and pray. You might not want to have an audio recording at that point, but you need to consider that through your services as well. Facial recognition and tracking. This is one of the newer versions of what's coming out there now. Software can track an individual through your camera system that's integrated throughout your worship facility. So you can say an individual with a blue hat, and it will track him as they walk through your building. It's a great piece of technology. No-go zones. This is my term, no-go, but what it is you can set areas in your congregation that if anyone crosses the threshold during certain times, it will alert your security team members. This is huge for like children's worship area or areas that no one's supposed to be. If you have an upstairs during the service, you don't want them up there. If there's motion up there, it will alert your security staff. Big thing is key access. If you can make your security system, the cameras work with electronic key system, that's where the pinnacle you want to be at. So when you have key access, it automatically records who is and takes a picture of them getting access into your areas. Recording. Remote viewing access should be a priority for you. This is also live and historical. It's huge for law enforcement when we go on scene to be able to remotely view where the individual went, how they gained access to the building, where could they be now. And you got to sometimes backtrack his arrival to see where he's at now. Okay. And then live just helps your security team address any threats accordingly. Who has access to that? It needs to be something that you need to consider, whether it's just your security lead or your whole team, maybe a leadership. Who has access to view that historically and live? Who is the gatekeeper of that access? Retention time. Available policy for retention. A lot of times if you're going cloud storage now, which is the way to go, a lot of times it comes with a cost. So determine how long you want them to retain your records for so you know going back. You don't want immediate overwrite. You do want some period of time because as you heard earlier, a lot of times there'll be a pre-run. They might show up. They might show up and see a response. They might show up at odd hours. So you want to be able to backtrack that, especially as law enforcement. If something happens, we want to go back through and see if the individual was there a week ago, if they were there a month ago, if they were there 2 months ago. Redundancy backups, make sure whatever company you go with has the redundancy backup. If you're keeping it internally, make sure you get a hard drive that is secured and backed up. Whether if you lose power, you don't lose everything. That is a massive concern. Let's talk really quickly about comms. Comms, the best way to do it, the most quickest way to do it is radios, walkie-talkies, two-way comms. Push to talk, there's no dialing. It doesn't rely on Wi-Fi or cellular service. You want to do UHF as opposed to VHF because it has a higher penetration. It can get through walls. It can go through basements up to the upstairs. You want to talk about earpieces. You don't want everyone in the congregation to hear every concern your security team has, right? When you first walked in today, you saw most of our security, our sheriff's office was wearing earpieces. And we were addressing issues. Sometimes they're security related. Sometimes I need water over here, or where is this person needs access to this room. So you want to have earpieces to keep that communication and it doesn't disrupt your service. If you can, you want encrypted or digital radios. That prevents people from scanning your channels and picking it up. It's a little more secure, and it will prevent other people from jumping onto your communication as well. There are secondary backup apps. These are becoming more and more popular as cell phone services come up with different kind of apps. Church directories have different kind of apps, and we'll touch really briefly on that. But if you're going to do that, try to have a dedicated Wi-Fi service in your jail. I'm sorry, I work at the jail. Don't sign that for people. All right. Have a dedicated Wi-Fi for your worship place, for your security. Nothing is more frustrating than when you're trying to get the Wi-Fi and you can't connect, right? So have it dedicated for your security team if you're using the secondary apps. These are a couple of the apps that we can recommend. One of them is Signal. It's private, it's encrypted. You can do messaging and calls. And it's great for after communication. Zello turns smartphones into push-to-talk radios. It works really, really well. So if you're on a budget and you can't provide a lot of push-to-talk radios for your security team, Zello is a great app for that. It turns your cell phone into that. Make sure you have cell service, okay? And then WhatsApp and GroupMe. It's not as private, it's common, but it's easy for volunteers to go. Keep the conversation on comms simple, clear, and professional, right? Decide with your team if you're going to use common language or instead you're going to use call signs. Have that conversation ahead of time. Maybe certain things might be call signs. Maybe some of them might be more direct common language. Plain talk, medical emergency, code blue, we talked about that. Avoid panic if it's overheard overhead. And then chain of command, who makes the call to escalate to the police or medical help? Have that predetermined, right? And it helps your congregation to know that someone's responsibility is this. I'm not saying don't call 911, but I'm saying there should be a point of contact for that. Dial directly into 911, local law enforcement. There are mass notification texts. A lot of churches are going to online directories, digital directories. There's some of those directories that have this option. If you go in and look at more of a premium version of it, it comes with a cost, but it can send a message to all of your flock that's attending. So look into that. Connect to the PA, lockdown, all those things. I know it's a really fast, really brief. We're short on time. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you it was fast.
Yeah, we're going to send all this to you, have the whole recording, so I know you're taking pictures. This is great. Captain Dave Conner, thank you. We also trying to have one more little stuff about the mental health part of it, what you can do to get people to help. And thank you to our ESL interpreter. She is going 100 miles an hour. So before we get to our final one, and that is Dan Russell, when you have a member who's in crisis, what do? When you have a member who is fighting addiction, or you think that there's some really big red flags, where do you go? Well, Dan Russell, who is the director of JHS in Genesee County, to answer those questions. So let me tell you this. Right now, you should already have an idea. You know, we are on the right track. Or you think we need to get to work, and tomorrow is too late. When it comes to the legalities, you have to train as much as we do. When it comes to knowing how to run, hide, and fight, if 3 people in the organization know it, but the members do not, then it's not going to work. But when you see what happens on a Sunday morning, when everything is calm and the chaos strikes, you are always going to respond how you were trained. And so I'm encouraging every faith-based leader and every security leader. It's not to create this panic or this fear that's been mentioned. It is to protect the people that you love. And if you join churches and join mosques and join synagogues and join temples and join faith bases, hey, let's do this together. Let's pick up a Sunday where we're doing this together. It's supposed to be a way to make everybody feel comfortable. We know the dangers of getting in a car, going too fast, and wearing a seatbelt. That's why we have speed limits and seatbelts. You do that, you're protecting people. The whole thing about the trauma kits, don't wait. When you go out there and go through boundary, you can go online, you can order things, but those 3 things are all you need and make a lot. Trauma dressings, tourniquets, and chest seals. Dan Russell, before I close this out, would you please talk about the mental health in this and other communities and where help can be before it becomes crisis? Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Russell.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you all for coming, and on behalf of Genesee Health System, our thoughts are with you. You're here, you've heard lots of really, really good information today on how to deal with the physical component of this. And I know you all know this, but I just want to remind you that there is also a pretty strong emotional mental health component to this. If you or your family or your neighbor, members of the congregation are having a reaction to this, please know whatever that reaction is, it's normal. Because there is no normal reaction to horrible tragedies like the one that occurred. Please have them talk to somebody. Doesn't have to be a professional to begin with, but have them reach out and talk to somebody. The worst thing you can do is try to forget about it and just think it's going to go away with time, because usually that does not work. GHS is here to help you however we can. If you need help but you don't know what that is, we can help figure out what it is you need. Just call us. There are brochures that everybody got as you came in. Please call us and we will do whatever we can to help everybody get through this. Thank you.
Dan, before you leave, let me just say this. This is an office, you're making a death notification. You're dealing with a family that has a crisis, a divorce, a family issue. You don't know where to go. There's some things that are just beyond our capability, but that's why you have resources like Dan Russell. And if you don't live in Genesee County, there's other mental health issues that we can deal with, refer things, but the key is to try to keep this as healthy as this. So Dan Russell, we appreciate you. And final thought, let me just say this, thank you so much. Anytime we do a debrief, I can promise you, no matter how many police, fire, EMS, dispatch, and medical personnel there, the number one thing we always get better on is communication. It is always communication. We should have done that. We should have done this. We should have done this. Today is the first step of communication. Today is the start of the process. But rest assured, there is a lot more that you need to do. If you need a threat assessment, call your local law enforcement. Go to the office. We do not have the resources to knock on your door and say, how can we help? Be proactive. Whether it's a faith-based community, certainly your schools, maybe it's just another group. Hey, how do we role play if something were to happen? This is why we're here. We would much rather be preventative than reactive. But this is the start of it. This is why Attorney General cleared out their schedule and law enforcement came here and this building said, stop. We're going to get together. So please be encouraged. Are there any members of the LDS Church in the crowd? If there are, please stand up. These are the families that were impacted. We are with you. We know we love you. We're going to take care of your members and take care of your families. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 funerals. The first one's tomorrow. We may go back to normal life because we don't live in Grand Blanc. We're not part of the LDS Church, but there are people that are grieving. So if you think about your day, you wonder, is it really a big deal? Remember the big deal that happened in this community and wherever you live. Remember the media and the message that we're giving today is to help people, not to scare people. And remember those who have paid the ultimate price. I will know that the heroes in this room are certainly heroes. But the heroes that were at that building, the members that gave their life to protect those heroes, let them be remembered today. Lift them up. Thank you so much for being here. Be safe. Thank you for supporting all the public servants. We will be here to help you. Thank you so much. Be safe.